Hey Jens, how you doing?
We're back.
Okay, welcome to the first Critics where we actually have the filmmaker on the show.
Right, that's really how we've always wanted it. This is great.
Yeah. Okay, so let's bring up our guests today. We've got Phil from the UK. How's it going, man?
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. And we have Hannah Doherty from Australia, and her film is what we are going to be reviewing today. Hannah, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the film that we're going to be watching?
The film is a 3-minute stop-motion animation. It's mostly about a friendship and people testing boundaries. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And if you look in the comments, you can watch the clip, and it tells you a bit about Hannah as well. But I want to get right into the show. So I'm going to start. Hannah, you are a masterful filmmaker. That's obvious. I mean, the thing is amazing to look at. Everything, sound, picture, the claymation, the live, the makeup, everything. Top notch, amazing. You should be working for Disney. But here's the but.
Here's the but. Oh boy.
I like you. I like you. I love you. I love you. Over. Didn't seem like an awful lot of work for me. I kind of thought when it ended that it was going to start, and I just didn't really get the story. Let's go to Jens, and then you can react to that.
Yeah, I understand that. I think that the problem that we had was that it was made to a 3-minute deadline, a 3-minute length. It couldn't be any longer than that. So we had that challenge of trying to connect to an audience and tell a story within a very small amount of time. So
I have a different take on this, though. Actually, sorry to interrupt. I don't know that we can be critiquing or looking at this the same as you would a movie or some, like a different genre. I almost looked at this more like you would look at art. You know what I mean? Where it's very open to interpretation, and there's not necessarily a beginning, middle, and end, and a traditional story. I got the feeling that she wanted us to interpret it in whatever way you came up with, like you do when you look at a Picasso or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's what you intended, Hannah, but that's what this short length kind of thing and that sort of storytelling, that's sort of what I got out of what I thought you were trying to do.
Okay, let's roll a clip, and then let Phil. We'll go back to Phil when we get back. Can you roll clip 1?
Theo, would you still be my friend if there were things about me you didn't know?
Oh, like what?
I don't know. Like, would you still be my friend if every time I laughed, spiders crawled out of my mouth?
Yes. What about me? Would you still be my friend if I had daymares?
Daymares?
Daymares.
Okay, Phil.
Steve, I think you're being harsh. It was like, for me, that was a perfect 3-minute short. It was, initially I was thinking, a stop motion video, and then, having the art design for real life mixed in with it, it was very, it was unique. The story and the way it was told made me smile, and I connected to it. I liked the quirky nature. I liked the sort of the things that they're coming up with, which were bizarre and surreal and funny. It's one of these sort of conversations you have with your loved one when you're potentially just being really silly or drunk. And I felt, and the end was just very, very moving. I thought it was just a wonderful, perfect 3-minute short.
I agree with you. It was charming. It had nice emotion. But you know me, I'm always going to go back to story. Hannah, I want you to watch this if you haven't seen it. It's called 1,000 Words. I say this, it's on the internet. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Look it up. It's called 1,000 Words. It's 3 minutes long, and it is the most incredible story you've ever seen. It is like watching a feature film in 3 minutes. Phil, what do you have to say about that?
You have to remind me. Obviously, I've seen it. Which one was this?
Dude, that's the one where the guy's on the train and then he has
the photos.
Yeah.
The photos where he finds the... Yeah, okay. Now, that is very good. But it's a very different sort of film. You can't be... You're comparing apples with oranges here.
No, I'm saying that...
Film is a moving image and it is a medium, but it isn't necessarily... not everything needs to fit into this. This is what it should be. It should be like this. Or just because it's 3 minutes doesn't mean those 3 minutes should be the same and should be able to tell the same sort of story as this 3 minutes. So it's a very, very, very different type of thing, and it just connected to me on a really gentle, emotional level. Whereas was it called 1,000 Words?
Yeah,
that was very clever, and again it was emotional as well, but in a very different sort of way. It is one of the best short films, and it does show how much you can squeeze into a short period of time. It was Ted, wasn't it, who made that?
Yes.
And he did more than 3 minutes, and a lot of feature films, certainly in a way to connect, would do in a couple of hours. But what Hannah's done here is taken something sweet about a couple's relationship and start pushing. And you kind of question, I don't know whether Hannah can it's obviously open to interpretation, is what the things that they ask each other, what if, and at the end, one of them disappears. Does this mean that's the end for them? Or, it makes you, I just found it really, really moving.
Yeah, I did too, but the point is that I'm just reacting to what Hannah said, that in a 3 minute time period, it's hard to tell a story, and that 1,000 words, which isn't really that much different of a story. It's about a guy that sort of fancies a girl and then kind of tracks her down, but the point is you can tell a story in 3 minutes. That's all I'm addressing.
Hannah, can we get back to maybe what your intent was? And was I off base with what I was saying about you leaving it open to a lot of interpretation? Was that your intent?
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't necessarily have to be a story. I don't think that you're telling in 3 minutes. It was more about presenting a concept, presenting an idea that is actually really, really very simple idea that has been told many times and presented many times, trying to tell it in a different way, in a way that every person that watches it has a different idea of what the ending means and what the story means and what they're actually asking each other. And that was what was interesting to me, was that the people who watch it do often have different ideas about what it means.
So what did happen to him?
Wait, have you ever watched something and then it ends and you're like, oh, God, I wish there was a lot more after that?
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
That's how you felt, right?
That's how I felt.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
no,
good,
I wanted...
But I think she wanted that.
Yeah, in a corporate film. But
in a way, she might have wanted that, and she wanted you to fill in the blank.
All right, Rachel?
Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Hi, what do we got going on?
We popped up the 1,000 Words link so people could take a look at it, and
oh, good.
We're doing good beyond that. Yeah, we're okay.
Some of my favourite films, Steve, are ones where the endings and the whole meaning of the film is left to interpretation. I don't want to be told this is what it's all about. I don't need that. I like to be. I like to think about a film. Films which that I watch that I still think about a few days afterwards. They're the ones which aren't neat and aren't literal. They do make you think, and they do make you question exactly what the meaning of certain things are. And I've always preferred that rather than the really neat the really neat films. I watched a film at the weekend with my mum, and the end left things open to interpretation. And her reaction was, "Huh? Well, what's that? What happened then?"
That was Steve's reaction.
That's for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for you to decide. That's for you to decide and figure out. It's not supposed to be. But different people like different things, and she wanted it to be tied up perfectly at the end to be explained. And I
no, not
was
Hannah,
so happy.
the other movie.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
roll clip 2 here, and then we'll come back.
Oh, yes.
And would you still be my friend if I couldn't control my tongue? Like an anteater tongue? With a mind of its own.
Oh, yes. Would you still be my friend if I had a giant hump?
Yes.
Not finished.
Sorry.
And my hump was bagpipes. And every time I moved, it made a bagpipe sound.
Yes. Yes, 100 times, yes. Celeste, would you still love me
Oh,
if I had fettuccine arms?
Wow, yeah, that's good. Since we have the actual filmmaker with us here, and I don't know if you want to answer this and keep it for people's imagination and interpretation, but like I'm curious about a few things. Like, what's the significance of the teeter-totter growing in height? Is the Chutes and Ladders game, does that have some significance? These are all a bunch of questions that I'm sure everybody has. Do you want to actually answer those?
Well, it is very open to interpretation, but basically the Snakes and Ladders game is just that they're playing a game with each other and they're testing each other. And it's a risky game that one of them could say no and one of them could find a boundary that they're not willing to cross for the other person. The height of the seesaw is really just that they're moving further and further out of this world and more into a fantasy realm where, spiders crawl out of people's mouths and people can have fettuccine arms and that's okay. And it's not questioned.
I mean, I got the height going up is like we sort of, it's risk to me. Like you say, I like you. Okay, I like you. Okay, whew, made it to level 1. At one point, I mean, it was kind of really nice when he said, I love you, and her reaction, he got that back, level 2. That's how I felt.
Right, well, but that's part of the fun of trying to figure these things out or coming up with your own interpretation of it. Even if it's not a traditional, story like you might be thinking, although it is in a way,
Yeah, when one of them dies, oh God, Phil's just going to eat me alive here.
We don't know if he's dead or she's gone.
No,
or dead.
I know, but I always say, then somebody dies of cancer, and then there's a problem after that. But he's just going to, go ahead, Phil, destroy me.
Again.
I'm not going to do that, Steve. I'm nice, and you have your opinions. They're wrong, but you're entitled to your opinions as a grown, aging man. So I think it's fine. It's absolutely fine. The question I want to know, Hannah, is what made you go with this mixed stylistic side of going with the stop motion animation and then the sort of the heightened artistic real life? Because in a way you kind of expect it to go the other way around because one was in a way you kind of see it that way going, but I think it worked really well in this way.
Yeah, I think that was what was interesting to me about it. I really like the mixed medium of live action and animation, but it's so rarely done effectively. And normally you see the live action humans having hypothetical situations which are animated to show that it's not real. And I thought it could very well be beautiful and interesting and meaningful to flip that and to have the hypothetical situations be live action and real people, but the real world within the film is actually this constructed animation and they're just puppets.
Hannah, have you ever seen this? Do you know who Carlos Lozcano is?
No.
Oh yeah, you got to watch. What's the name of that piece? Because he also did a 3-minute piece that's very similar to what you did. He uses. Phil, do you remember the name of that piece? It's called something like A Love Story in Stop Animation. Rachel, see if you can find that and put that in the thread here. But it's also mixed medium, very similar to this. And I don't want to have to say this, but it's another one of my top 3 favorites, and I can't believe I didn't think about it till right now. Stories in a 3-minute time span, and we were going to do a whole show on it. Remember, it's like my life passes before my eyes. Do you remember that, Phil?
It's beautiful. Carlos is an incredible animator and storyteller, and that was one of my favorite films during our filming of the original series of this, because it was just perfect. I mean, this was absolute perfection. This film,
I thought of
it
him
kind
right
of just
away.
left you speechless.
But his claymation mixed with animation.
I thought of him right away when I saw her piece.
And the funny thing is, we're talking about like the top 3 things I've ever seen on the internet are probably those 2, and I'd have to really figure out what the third one is. All right, let's go for final comments here. I'm going to start with you,
Wait, did we play the last clip?
Oh, right. Let's play the last clip.
Maybe you'll have a whole different opinion of this thing by the end here.
Okay, here we go, Hannah. It might happen right
Theo, would you still love me if I had poisonous spikes all over my body?
Yes. Would you still love me if my skin was like onions and it always made you cry?
Yes! Would you still love me if you couldn't see me, or touch me, or taste me, or smell me, or hear me?
Hello? Celeste? Yes! Yes! Yes.
Okay, final comments. Hannah, you're a masterful filmmaker, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Jens.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say that I haven't already said? I liked it, and every time I watch it, I'm getting a little something new, and I'm connecting other things. It's a little different each time I watch it, I guess. Phil?
Yeah, I got chills. I mean, it's a powerful ending. It's something which it's an entertaining, it's a fun, it's a quirky film with a very powerful and somewhat dark ending, really, and I love that.
But is it dark? What happens to her? I want to know.
Well,
that's part two.
My interpretation is they're making all these things come real, and they push it too far.
All right, we're going to go to Hannah, but I want to see Theo and Celeste part 2. Okay, Hannah, you're last. What do you got to say?
Well, I can't tell you what the ending is. I think it's different for everyone who watches it. And it's kind of like trying to say what the ending of The Sopranos is without comparing this film to The Sopranos, obviously. But that last scene where you see what happens in the end was never written, so it doesn't exist. So I guess you're just left with the thoughts. But yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Okay, thanks for being here, Hannah and Phil. Good to see you, man. And we're going to turn it over to Rachel.
Yeah, hi. Since I have the mic, I'm going to tell you what I think. I loved it. I kind of didn't necessarily read it maybe quite as dark as Phil in particular did. It seemed more like a first love kind of idea, because those are the type of things that you would maybe say when you're really young, like, would you love me if, and do you love me because? And then kind of as you get older, you maybe stop asking those questions. And it felt like at the end, because young love does sort of end like that, and you do hold on to crushes and you hold on to loves in like maybe a different way. And that's what it sort of felt like to me. And I loved it. And it made me cry a little bit at the end. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and thank you for letting me expound a little here. It was lovely to have everybody. Next week, we will have a whole brand new show, so make sure you subscribe and follow us to catch a new episode, and we will see you then. Bye-bye.